Right before we start, I want you to watch this clip. I've gotten all technical aspects sorted out, so hopefully the next episode shouldn't take too long. And as you can see, that was a big lie, as episode 2 took very much longer than anticipated to release. And there's a few reasons for that, some of which some of which I'll explain later on, other which I will be keeping to myself because it's a personal matter. So let's talk about the conception of episode 2. Now, I do have a project planner for the binding chains, so every episode is already kind of planned out. But I do remember the project name for this one. It is called New Ally, and all it really has is bullet points saying what we have to accomplish by the end of this episode, and that's about it. I believe the bullet points of this episode was introduce new character, set up the flaws of some characters even more, and set up more conflict with the main antagonist. And those are the bullet points that I know for a fact that I want to do by the end of the episode. I believe I was able to accomplish most of them. Some of them are a bit on the iffy side, but I think for the most part I did as well as I could do. So, as you can imagine, it left a lot of room for interpretation. I've previously stated that I do not script out my stories first, but rather storyboard them, then script. So I left a lot of room for interpretation, especially with how, well, little bullet points I had to look through. So I was just found myself being a little lost till I had this epiphany. And spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen the episode. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's on my main alt channel. Okay, with that said, I wanted to dive into a character grieving because I think that's something that I wanted to just show people, that abuse doesn't just affect its victims, but also how it affects the people around the victim, so to deal. And in this case, it was the main character of Kyle losing her friend to the monster. And I remember just drawing that scene first. It was interesting. I just drew a character crying over their friend, and I just knew that's the direction I wanted to take this episode. In many ways, it was that scene that truly shaped this episode, as I wanted to set up that this character is trying to mask their grief by interacting with our main character, but also learning to really like our main character, despite our main character being a bit self-loathing. And it was interesting because, it just started to flow a lot more naturally. And I found myself just like finding, I just found myself finding it so much easier to write than episode 1. Honestly, I feel like this one probably could have been episode 1 to begin with. One thing that I really did not like about episode 1 was, one, it's a bit on the short side, a lot shorter than I anticipated. But two, well, I did not like how the art style changes midway through. This was honestly just because I thought that it wouldn't be too noticeable. As you can see, I was very much wrong. So basically what happened was, I would usually, the first minute, I would, use a pen and trace the characters, but halfway through I decided not to do so. And I regret the decision because it just looks worse as the episode progresses. So with episode 2, I was like, yes, it's going to be a bit longer, it's going to be a bit more tedious, but I would much rather have everything inked than not. So episode 2 really was just like an evolution of episode 1. And I remember there was a lot more fidelity in episode 2 than episode 1. Now, my art isn't that good, to be honest, but like I do like how this one looks compared to, well, episode 1, which could look pretty ugly in many cases. Most namely, the way we color stuff has been changed. Who's we? It's just me doing it. Anyway, the way I color stuff has been changed. So there was in episode 1, you can see that there's a little bit of choppiness in its coloring, which I really did not like. I did not like that. So I strived to change it by the second episode. So I was starting to experiment more and more with its appearance, and I was starting to find a way to make episodes be more efficient and look better. But what ended up happening was, well, a very dumb reason to get distracted. So what happened with episode 2 that caused it to be delayed so much? Well, I'm not immune to being distracted by women. And genuinely speaking, that is the main reason why episode 2, yeah, I got really distracted by a girl. It's a little embarrassing to admit because, you think that you think I would be a lot more determined not to get distracted, but I'm not. Just being really honest, I'm not. I really like this girl, and I really wanted to be with her as much as possible. So I'm not going to go more in depth, as I want to keep her anonymous. But yes, I'm not immune to being distracted by a girl. But I have since found a way to be a bit more balanced in that aspect, and it probably won't happen again. But with all due respects, also, I'm the only one that works on the episodes, so I'm the only one doing all of it. And perhaps I was a bit too ambitious with the idea that I would get it out before the end of April, or by the end of April. I was a bit on the ambitious side, but yep, that's essentially how episode 2 got delayed, because I just got distracted. So now what? Episode 2's been finished, and now I'm just kind of left here wondering what's the next stepping stone, so to speak. And I know it seems like I should immediately get to work on episode 3, but I find myself wanting to work on something else for a bit, because I know that my free time that I have at the moment, you know, I know that the free time I have after work is going to be a lot more busier as something's going to be changing in the later future. I'm not going to go more in depth with that, just know it's a big life change. So I know that my free time will be more limited. And I was like, do I want to work on the third episode? Or do I want to work on something else for a change? It's something that I'm still debating, but I guess only time will tell. But thank you for listening, and I don't know, like and subscribe. Goodbye.